Welcome to the new sound of online radio. Welcome to the sound of Universal Broadcasting Network.
'Cause you make me feel like I've been locked out of heaven.
A mix of today's hits and hard-to-find favorites, combined with the most entertaining and intriguing talk anywhere. This is your sound. This is the sound of Universal Broadcasting Network at UBNradio.com.
Good afternoon. Welcome to Limit Free Life. I'm your host, Michelle Perkins. This is, we're here at UBN Radio. You can find us at UBNradio.com. And we're at the beautiful Sunset Gower Studios here in Hollywood, California. It's a beautiful day. And I am going to talk to you today about money. This show is primarily around work and career. It helps people to make career transitions. I help people to grow their businesses, to start businesses, to find work they love, whatever form that might take, and to talk about the money associated with all of that. Because in large part, we work to earn money, among other things like fulfillment and fun and some of the other things that I can get more excited about. But bottom line is there is a money component to all of it, and I love to talk about money. I'm a former CPA and business consultant, but what I found in doing all that accounting and finance work for quite a while was that nobody ever really addressed the psychology of money and the emotional aspects of money. And it came to me as a huge epiphany that that is really one of the most crucial parts of the whole picture. So the mechanics of money, what you do with it, all the things that the financial industry teaches us, it's all wonderful, it's important. But the fundamental aspect of money that drives us and helps us or puts pressure on us to make certain decisions is primarily emotional and psychological. And so that's what we're going to talk about today a little bit. We're going to talk about something I find really interesting, and it's been on my mind lately a lot. It relates tremendously to women, but also to men. I mean, sometimes I generalize and speak to about or to women, but of course the reality is there are plenty of men who find themselves in the same situations or with the same thinking and the same issues. So that said, I think as a general rule, some of the things we're going to talk about today pertain a little bit more to women as a general group. So yeah, I've been thinking quite a bit about women and the glass ceiling issue. And the fact that so much of this is an inner game. I mean, everything's an inner game. Happiness is an inner game. Money is an inner game. And so there's so much to this that is derived inside of us. And the boundaries that we can create, a lot of it is within our belief systems, within our thought patterns. The fact that we may think that we can sort of top out at a certain level of income, whether it's in a job or in our own business, is a really, really important point. And I was thinking about women. I was thinking particularly about women who stay home and take care of children or take some other kind of a break from work. And again, I know men who do that. And so it's sort of the same, but not. And emotionally, men handle it differently. They have some pretty severe emotional reactions to money issues. I have to say, depression and things like that, it can really take over for men, I think, when they're having serious work or money issues. That said, women tend to be more often the ones who take time off for work, to raise children or to take care of other people. And I was thinking about your money set point, which I'm going to get into. And I was thinking of what that does. It's already difficult enough for people in general to sort of go past a particular a set point. You have like a speedometer within you, and you can push the gas and let off the gas, but you can only go so far in your own mind, and it works that way with money. So I talk about a set point being that comfortable place where you kind of always come back to, where you don't really feel like you can push the accelerator and go beyond that point. And we oftentimes, when we're wanting to earn more money, we run into a wall with that set point. And even if we go beyond it, we kind of come back to it. So it's like when you have a thermostat in your house, and it's always kind of adjusting the temperature so it comes back to a certain preset temperature. That's kind of how we roll with money. So I want to address that set point because it doesn't have to stay that way forever. But it is good to be aware that we have those. And for women who take time off, I think that experience, as wonderful as it is, and I did it, and I'm very happy that I did it. I'm going to talk about that too, because there's, like everything, there's both a really wonderful positive side to it, and there's also a little bit of a shadow side, something that I think it would be helpful to talk about, just so women can have some awarenesses of what can happen when you stop working altogether. So that set point, I think, for women who take that time off can be further lowered. And so I think that's an interesting topic of conversation, because then when they want to go back into the work world, they're really a little bit off in terms of what they think they can earn, and their expectations really kind of drop. So I'm gonna, I think I'm gonna start this with a video. I was searching around and I found a TED Talk, woman that I listened to, and I thought, wow, she's saying, all the things that I believe, and I really liked her talk. And so I'm gonna play a little clip from this. Her name's Tuli Sithole, and I'm gonna just play a quick clip, and then we'll come back and talk about this.
Money and love for me has always been a balancing act. And that's got to go in the past when I was young. My father was a hard-working man. He was a surgeon. Never at home, always on call, every single day. And as a young girl, I wanted the love and affection of my father. And I remember I made a vow that I will never, ever work as hard as he does, because family comes first. I made that vow, but that's the impact it had in my life. And then I started realizing the pattern of my past, that every time I was in a relationship, the father of my children, I had no career, I had no life, I had no ways of actually making income. If there's income, but it's not sufficient to make me survive. And when I'm single, I am thriving, I'm swimming in riches. And that was the pattern. And this took me, and I realized there's so many women out there, perhaps you too. Maybe your story is not love and money, but it's something else. Women always, we compromise something about money. Money for us is very emotional. Oh, this earring is disturbing this poor thing. Money for us is intertwined in our emotions. When a man asks for something, if someone, like I got a call a couple of weeks back, Tuli, come speak, what's your rate? What's my worth? So in my mind, my rate is based on how I view myself, my self-esteem. It's not loud out there, it's subconscious. But for a man, he gives what he wants. He's thinking, oh, Jesus, this apps, I'm gonna rip them off, 50,000, do you know what I'm saying? For a woman, it's different. Even if you could charge so high, you would think, but really, I think I'm worth this much. That's what I'm here to share with you. 8 principles to transform that relationship. Whatever it is that is holding you back, those emotions, they started back from when you were young.
Okay, so she brought up, I thought, some really interesting points, because this money set point is really all about what you think you're worth, what you think your value is out there in the world. And you tend to come back to a particular number in your own mind. Now, it might be based a little bit on what you've earned in the past. It could be based on, what your family has earned through their lives, your parents or whatever. So there are a lot of reasons that we feel unable to go beyond a certain point in our earnings. And that's a problem. I mean, part of what we want in life is to be prosperous and to have both what we need and what we want, and that's a big part of why we're working. So I want to address the set point. Now, she brought up a really great point that your set point is. All of money actually is what she was saying is very emotional, and for women, there are some deep emotions about worthiness that come up, and it comes up all the time. I see it all the time. I'm asked about it a lot, and it is again an inner game. It's something that has to be worked out within you. and there are some processes to do that and some ways to do that. But that awareness that if you're not earning what you want, it might be because you keep coming back to the set point. And that's the main thing I wanted to drive home today is if things aren't going the way you want, if you're not getting certain promotions, if your business isn't generating certain income, are you creating a boundary because in your thoughts and in your mind, you're only really allowing a certain level of income into your life? And it sounds a little, it's not coming from a practical place. It's coming from an emotional place. So it's all very subconscious. She was talking about love and money and sort of the unconscious beliefs around that, and her dad being unavailable because of his work and her not wanting to do that. And so she had a lot of unconscious beliefs that were coming up and surfacing, and really creating some of the decision points that she was making. So when she was asked, for a fee for some of her services, she would go into that whole idea of, what am I worth? What are my services really worth? And of course, when we ask ourselves that question, a lot of our own stuff is going to come up, and we're going to have a big struggle inside our own heads about what we're worth, because most of us do struggle with that. So the set point is a really interesting phenomenon. You see it with people who come into a lot of money. You see it whether they're people who inherit a lot of money or people who win the lottery. Again, though, there's a big discomfort level with having that much money because it's so far outside of this set point that people have. So first thing I would say is just look at your own life and see if you're not making the money that you would like to be making. Are you holding yourself back because there's an idea in your head of how high you can go? And what is that? What is that number? I think it's really important to identify, numbers and money. You've got to be able to really look at specific numbers. You can't say, I'd like to make a lot. I mean, you need to quantify that. You need to give it a number and have that image of that number in your head and what that number represents in your life. It's important to track your income just like you track your expenses. A lot of people track their spending, but they don't really track their income. And by tracking your income, you can get a better feel for what you're allowing in. And that's an interesting exercise that most people don't do, partly because if you're tracking every day, which is really, I think, recommended, and you track literally every bit of income that comes into your life on a daily basis. It can be from work, from services you provide, from a paycheck. It can be money you find on the ground. It can be money your grandmother sends you in the mail. So anything like that, if you can track it on a daily basis, you'll start seeing that money coming in. You'll start getting used to receiving that money, but you'll also see patterns. You'll also see gaps. People don't like to do it because there may be, a lot of low numbers on there, or there might be days with a lot of zeros on there, particularly if you're in business. And that can get, that doesn't feel that great, so people tend not to do it. But what you want to do is push through that discomfort, track the money that's coming in so you can see the pattern, so you can see where are those zeros and why, or those low numbers, and really start analyzing it, because that will tell a whole story. All that data will tell you what is going on in your life and where and when it's happening, and from there you can figure out why, and you can start to see little tweaks that you can make so that you can change some things, so that you can maybe offer new services, or find ways to fill in those gaps. Maybe there are days when certain things aren't happening. Maybe you're not doing certain things on those days. So whatever it is, that kind of money tracking is very tangible. It lays those numbers right out there where you have to look at them, and tells a story. And from that story, you can create a new story, which is the fun of the whole thing, is that this is, again, your creation. You can create your own money story, but you have to really take an active part. And in doing that, to always be aware that you don't want your set point holding you back. So you want to find a way to identify that set point, to find out where your comfort level is. And one thing that you can do with that is you can start to think, okay, this is what I'm making. Maybe look at your year, figure out your 5 best months of the year, add them together, take an average. So you now have a high average for the year that maybe just passed the last 12 months. Take that number, see where your comfort level is with that, and then add a 0 to it. Or try, look at that number and say, okay, that's what was. What would I like to see instead of that? And see where your comfort level is with that bigger number. If it's too comfortable, then it's not enough of a goal. It's not a big enough stretch. And if it's way, way out there, it won't be believable to you. So you want to find something that is outside of your comfort zone, not, truly in fantasy land, and go for that number next, and so that you can up level that set point, because you don't want to stay with whatever set point you have unless for whatever reason your set point is really, really high and satisfactory and there's no work to be done here. So so that is a little exercise that you can do just to see, can you push it? Can you earn more? Can you allow yourself to earn more? And it's a good exercise, and then you can take actions based on that new number. And that new number will require new actions, because if you do the same thing over and over, you're going to get the same result, right? So you need some new actions to get you to this new goal. So there's another clip in that video. I'm going to play a couple of them. And a little about money is energy, and kind of how money flows, and why the set point, in my mind, this helps to understand why the set point isn't real. There should be no set point. We all have them, but we really don't want to hang on to them, okay? Because that's just something that we believe that is not serving us and that we don't need. So let's take a look at this next clip and see what she has to say.
Is based on your self-esteem. It's your self-esteem that's speaking. Money is energy, passes from hand to hand, one person to another. 20 rand for you buys you a movie ticket. 20 rand for someone buys them food, a meal that perhaps might last them a week, tin fish. Who knows? But money is different for all of us. And just as much as you manage your time during the day, you've got to manage your money as that energy for you to harness it. How are you going to attract it into your life? And how are you going to keep it when you have it? And when do you give it? Oftentimes we want money, but we want to give it. That's why you've got to be willing. The first principle is that you've got to be willing to receive and to give. Many people don't think about that. We think, God is not giving me, but you're actually not willing to receive. How many times have you prayed and you said, God, give me $1 million, please, I've been asking, I've been doing this, I've done that. And then you find 20 rand in a corner somewhere and you're thinking, man, just change. God just gave the first 20 rand of $1 million. It's not just change. A friend came by to say hello and they cooked food. That is value of money, of the abundance that you seek. Say thank you. You've got to be willing to receive. When I started now climbing my ladder after leaving that relationship that crippled me financially, I bought a new car, and I was so excited. But when I was driving out of the dealership, I remember thinking, oh my goodness, I cannot come out of this dealership with this car. What will everyone at work think, that I have too much money? Those are the emotions women tend to go through, right? Suddenly you have money and you're afraid of showing it. I started thinking that, what will people think? I have too much money. And that goes that I was not willing to receive. So it comes, but suddenly I'm now saying, God, thank you, but I'm going to park in the garage. Let me go back to work in that scotta of mine. Many of us do that. Many of you buy tea, you buy cups and things for your house or something. But how many of you keep it for special guests and wait for those special occasions? How many?
Okay, so once again, she was speaking about money and self-esteem. She brought up a point that she had somewhat of a financial collapse after a relationship broke up. And that is another thing that I see often with women. And there's so many women financial experts out there who have been, something happened in their life that left them fairly destitute. And through that struggle, they've come back to really understand money and to, you know, develop a good deal of wealth and financial knowledge. So I find that to be a little more of a trend, it seems like, with the women who are out there speaking about money. I think it's kind of fascinating. Unfortunately, it seems like women are having to learn the hard way, but learning nonetheless. So it's interesting to hear her talk about the receiving and then also some of the shame or guilt or whatever that comes from receiving. So, you know, to reset your money thermostat here, you have to be able to receive, and you have to be able to step into being that person who has that money and is accepting of the fact that you have that money, and not going into kind of a, "Ooh, let me hide this." And I see that a lot as well. I was recently talking to a client who has inherited some money, and just that idea that she feels like she no longer really, she doesn't need to complain about money anymore, and her peer group, you know, is kind of still in that mode, and so she actually feels sort of guilty and uncomfortable, you know, with the idea that she's not part of that problem anymore. So it's very interesting what our emotions say to us about money, and that's another one of those interesting points. So to prepare, well, to understand your set point, and then to prepare to move it up a little bit or a lot, whichever you prefer. It really takes being able to receive, being able to step into acceptance of yourself with money. And that's a little bit of a different, it's not changing who you are by any stretch of the imagination, but it is changing your own perception of yourself. It's not going to make you a better person or a worse person, but you have to be able to be happy with yourself and money together. And that can be difficult for women. Women have a tendency to want to give it to others, or to spend on others, or to make sure others are taken care of well. But when it comes to actually having things for themselves, that can be very difficult. So there's a very interesting book by Barbara Stanny, who's another money expert who also had her own really quite devastating early challenges with money. Her story is really interesting, actually. And it's Barbara Stanny, Stanny, and she has a new book called Sacred Success, which it's a great book, and it talks a lot about women and money. And I'm going to read you just a little tiny excerpt from this book. And she talks about money is not an end, but serves as a means to an end, a tool for creating a meaningful life. The women who made millions were telling me, yes, there is another way, merging higher incomes with a higher calling and playing the game according to their feminine nature, deepest truths, and personal missions. So that's kind of where women, if they can merge the idea, or if we can merge the idea of pursuing a calling, being of service, and having money, then it sits much better with us. It feels better. It's more accepting. It's something that we can understand raising our set point for that reason if there's a higher calling. So it's good to kind of put those two things together and really understand that having money allows you to do wonderful things in the world, allows you to give more, it allows you to be more of yourself, to step into ways of expressing yourself that you might have not been able to do because you couldn't afford it. And so it is important for women to understand that having money and building wealth is important for them. They need to be able to receive it and to put it to good use. And if they want to do that, then they'll be more motivated to raise the set point and to see it as a positive. So I think men sometimes can see it more as an end unto itself, more of a, there's not as much struggle about having it. I think for men are a little bit programmed, I think, from the time they're young to to grow up and earn money. And women have a lot of different roles and things that are being pushed on them, and so they make choices, and so it's a little more of a diverse role play that they have to engage in. Okay, so I would highly recommend that book, though, if you're struggling at all with money and trying to understand why you're not earning the money that you want to earn. There's some great books out there on this topic. So if you want to earn more, I wouldn't go to the necessarily to the wealth building, financial wealth creation kind of books. I would go first to the books like Barbara Stanny's and understand your mindset around money. There are lots of them. So let's see. There, again, we go back to self-esteem. Self-esteem comes up all the time for women, and self-worth, and being able to go after more of the money that they want. That is, let's see. I have another little piece that I wanted to read from here. Well, Ralph Waldo Emerson said, "To be yourself in a world that is constantly trying to make you something else is the greatest accomplishment." So that's one that will just remind you to make sure to stay with yourself and pursue money making in the way that is authentic for you. And she talks, too, about sacred success. Barbara Stanny talks about sacred success as pursuing your soul's purpose for your own bliss and the benefit of others while being richly rewarded. So I think if you think of it that way, it is much easier to get comfortable with a higher income level and to realize the value in yourself and the value in that. So these are all important points, and the self-worth aspect shows up all over the place. It shows up in whether you are willing to go out there and try to build a business. It shows up in whether you are giving all your money away to your children or to family members. It shows up in how you set your fees if you have a business. Really in everything, in every aspect of business, the decisions that you make, you really have to look at how, am I feeling as worthy as I need to feel to be able to make decisions that will pull me forward. And that is an interesting exercise to constantly be asking yourself, self-worth showing up in what I'm doing, whether I'm billing a customer or whether I'm even just talking to a potential prospect in whatever business you have. So these things are always an issue in our minds. We need to always be addressing them and setting an intention to raise up that sense of self-worth. So how do you do that? How do you go more really a little bit higher? So anyway, that's some things. Taking care of children that make you into the world. Your ambitions up. So never take that path comes into play. Always there, regardless. So that area where you have to look deep and really find your own value. Allow the receiving comes in here too, because when people are telling you things about yourself, you need to take those in. When you have victories, whatever they might be, you have to take those in. You have to examine those. You have to be celebrating those. So, if you're throwing a big fundraiser for your school, that isn't so different than planning an event at work. And so you need to take those things in and really recognize the successes that you're having in every area of your life, because those all can be transferred to business skills or job skills. So I'm going to stop here, take a little short break, and then we're going to come back, and I want to show you another clip from our video we've been watching and talk a little more about money boundaries. I think one of the most important messages I have to share with the world about the work that I do is that your work is yours to create. This is your piece of art that you can create in your life, and there's really nothing stopping you. Overall, most of us can learn what we need to learn and figure out what we need to figure out and create that fabulous career or business that we dream about. And there's really no reason to think that you can't. My name is Michelle Perkins, and I am the CEO and founder of a company called Limit Free Life. And I help men and women to make dramatic change in their lives so that they can have the fulfillment, fun, and financial prosperity that they have always wanted to find through their work. The main services I offer through Limit Free Life are one-on-one private coaching, group coaching, trainings and seminars, and business consulting. My signature service is one-on-one coaching over a period of time, 3 months, 6 months, even a year. It really allows a person to decide on an outcome that they desire, and then for us to work together to really achieve that outcome in full. The type of clients that I typically work with are professional men and women who are driven to do more, who might be entrepreneurs, but also career professionals who work in organizations, who are really looking to do more with their lives and very open to thinking in new ways about what they're doing, and who are willing to take responsibility, do the work, make some changes, and who don't say I can't a whole lot. Clients up-level in a number of ways. For some, they start a business after being in the corporate world. For others, they have an existing business and they really figure out the key and the formula to making that business grow and take off. For some, it's a matter of really developing courage. And for many, it's a matter of up-leveling their view of themselves, what they're capable of, how powerful they are, what their strengths are, and where they can go in life. What I see also is that there's a spark that kind of gets lit, and that flame keeps growing within them, and there are things that they want that maybe they were reluctant to even express that they wanted, and now they just go for it. They have bigger wants and bigger dreams than they had before, and the sense that they can achieve those things. I feel very strongly that money beliefs are foundational to developing a business that can scale and grow and become the business that you want it to be, whatever level of success that is. And for people who feel stuck or their business isn't going the way they want, a lot of times it comes back to some of these money beliefs. So as a certified money mindset coach, I have the training to help people understand where their hidden money beliefs are either interfering in their lives or businesses, or coming into play in some fashion in all the decisions that they're making, both in their business and in their life. The overall mission behind my work is to help people love their work, to find satisfaction, fulfillment, fun, and also to be financially prosperous in what they're doing. That combination to me is a perfect recipe for making work a great part of your life. And so that's my vision, is for people to see work and money as allies in their life and things they can lean on so that they have something that makes them feel important and something that gives them a place to go to develop a sense of identity and purpose and meaning in the world. My greatest hope for my clients is that they will develop a holistic relationship with work, money, and life, and there won't be this separation where they go to work and then they live their life after work, and they will develop work or businesses that they love, that they look forward to going to, and that give them the freedom and the income and the happiness that they're looking for in their life. Hello and welcome back. We're here at Limit Free Life today talking about women and money and breaking through money boundaries and your money set point, which is that threshold above which it is hard for you to go in terms of earnings. So whether you're in a job or in your own business, we want to make sure that you can break through that set point and get where you really want to go. So if you're frustrated these days with how much you're making, if you feel like you've been there too long, nothing's moving, nothing's going forward, and you're feeling sort of like this is it, this is where I stop, this is as high as I can go, or you're trying to set money goals and even your goals are not that high. I mean, if somebody said, what is your goal for where you'd like to be in 5 years, and that number is not very different than where you are now, or the percentage increase is not that great, then there's something going on in your thinking that is perhaps disallowing you from making having a higher goal or believing that you can make more than you are. Or, you know, it's never fun to watch other people and think, gosh, you know, if I could just make what they're making, that would be so great. So if that's the thought you have, foremost, that is kind of really, really important. And if you know how much you want to send your kids, whatever kind of you want to have a charity, all of these, how you want to look at it. So try to see what, and then see how, you know, where the, you know, then things that you can do to supplement your money. And there are other jobs to be had that maybe potentially pay better. So just think about that. Think about your money set point, where you might be stuck at, and think about some of the excuses that you might be using to keep you there. Because a lot of us tell ourselves things, you know, well, I have to be, you know, I can only do X, or I could never change this because. And just take a look at some of those excuses and see what that's saying to you. And look again, we've been talking a lot about your self-worth and your value, and see if you're talking about yourself, you know, well, with my education or with my background, I can only do X, and see if those excuses are starting to pop up. And that's more of a value-based kind of excuse. So take a look at that and see if there are some ways that you can break through that. And one more clip from the video that we've been watching will address some of these things as well. And I think she's got some great ways to transform your thinking around that, and to see, you know, because how do you see your value differently? And so let's see what she has to say about that.
The third principle, I'm going to have to move faster. You've got to be clear why you're here. What is your intention? What is your purpose? Who are you? Some of you have come in here with strength, with purpose, gentleness, kindness,